So this guy, Michael Wessel, apparently in the negotiations of the TPP, there are some group of people called cleared advisors. And there's a hierarchy here. Some of the advisors come from industry. Some are liaisons to industry. Some are just general advisors on trade. Cleared means that they have certain security clearances. So this guy, Michael Wessel, is a cleared advisor. He worked for Richard Gephardt for about 20 years, handling his trade deals, including NAFTA, the WTO Uruguay round. He was also a publicly acknowledged advisor to the Obama campaign in 2008. He consults with domestic producers and the United Steelworkers Union. So the guy has some credentials. And he has now written a piece in Politico basically saying that he's read the trade deal and Elizabeth Warren is right to be concerned. And it's basically two-part. One is he's concerned about what he's read, but the beauty of President Obama's criticism of the critics, when he says, you tell me what's wrong with this trade agreement, not one that was passed 25 years ago, as Obama said, or calls for, give me specific problems that are problematic with this trade agreement, is, as this cleared advisor says, we're not allowed to talk about the details. So in private, this guy, Michael Wessel, is saying to President Obama, there's some massive problems with X, Y, and Z. And in public, all he can say is, I've told President Obama that there's problems, and literally has to say X, Y, and Z. He cannot air any public criticism because it's against the law. I can tell you, he writes, that Elizabeth Warren is right about her criticism of the trade deal. We should be very concerned about what's hidden in this trade deal, particularly how the Obama administration is keeping information secret from even those who are supposed to provide advice. So on top of the problems he sees in this deal that he cannot publicly refer to, and then watches the administration knock critics for not being specific when the administration knows full well that they legally cannot get specific, he also says that important details are even being hidden from him as a cleared advisor. Things like country of origin, we've talked about this. It's being reported, and no one's quite sure, that country of origin means that you may need only 35% of what goes into a product for it to have originated there, technically speaking. So in other words, you're making shoes, 65% of that shoe can come from China, but if you assemble that shoe in Vietnam, it could be considered Vietnamese. And so he raises, he says, those details have enormous repercussions. Rules of origin specify how much of a product must originate within the TPP countries for the resulting product to be eligible for duty-free treatment. I mean, look, we know what the game is with this TPP. It really has nothing to do ultimately with trade, which is probably why they don't care that much about it. The country of origin or origination. It doesn't address state-owned enterprises. Cleared advisors, he writes, were created by statute to advise our nation's trade negotiations. But the USTR, that is the United States trade representatives, are just simply not allowing cleared advisors access to the information that they need to provide advice. And then they don't have the ability to criticize it in public. So this is what's going on. Don't forget, call your Congress people. If you have a Democrat, tell them, how could you possibly vote for fast track authority where it cuts $700 million from Medicare. You can point them to a piece in the LA Times and one in the National Journal. And if it's a Republican, how could you possibly allow President Obama to have this type of authority?